Hello, and welcome back to Cultivated World, the channel that brings you the good stuff from the world of watches. Today we're looking at the Omega Seamaster 300M. We'll be looking at what makes this watch so desirable and why it's a suitable alternative to the Rolex Submariner. When the Omega Seamaster was first launched back in 1948, it was initially a dress watch, but was designed to be a much more robust timepiece. The original Seamaster initially only had a few provisions for water resistance and anti-magnetism, and it was a few years before Omega created a Seamaster that resembles the one that we have here today. It was not until 1957 that Omega produced something that we would describe as a sports or a professional watch. The world was introduced to a trilogy of horological patriarchs: the Railmaster, the Speedmaster, and of course, the Seamaster 300. The Omega Seamaster 300M was launched in 1993 and was catapulted into the mainstream by everyone's favourite super spy, none other than Bond, James Bond. 007 first wore the Seamaster in GoldenEye, and this marketing decision was a masterstroke for Omega and then Swatch Group executive Jean-Claude Biver. In the decades prior, Omega had lost its way a bit, with wavering brand identity and falling sales. The product placement deal with James Bond is arguably one of the major steps that Jean-Claude Biver took to save Omega from rocky waters. I must confess, this particular model of Seamaster was never actually featured in any of the Bond films, but we're such big fans of 007 and couldn't resist using the Bond reference in the intro. The first Seamaster worn by Pierce Brosnan in GoldenEye actually featured a quartz movement and had an aluminium bezel. This is the Seamaster 300M, reference number 212-304-120-03-001, and was launched back in 2012. It is the third generation of Seamaster 300M and the first to feature a ceramic bezel some 4 years after Rolex introduced ceramic to the Submariner. As many of you already know, ceramic is much more resistant to scratches than aluminium and will maintain its luster for years to come. The outer edge of the bezel features wave-style contours, which are used to grip the bezel whilst turning it. Aesthetically speaking, I think the bezel design is very charming. However, it is not as easy to rotate as the bezel on a Submariner. The clicks when you turn the bezel are also less audibly satisfying. Where the clicks from the Submariner sounds like they're coming from a precision instrument, this Seamaster almost sounds like you're zipping something up every time it turns. This generation of Seamaster Professional is the only one not to feature the iconic wave pattern dial. Instead, it has a lacquered dial which features a sheen and colour, not unlike the ceramic bezel. The tonal dial and bezel work wonderfully together, shimmering and changing colour in the ambient light, transitioning between a navy blue all the way to a dark denim blue and almost going black. The dial features rhodium-plated hour markers and skeletonized sword-shaped hands. These, alongside the pip at 12 o'clock, are decked with superluminova for great legibility in the dark. The date wheel at 3 o'clock looks black and features silver-colored numbers which are textured and raised slightly. I'm not sure if Omega should have kept a white date wheel instead to create more symmetry on the dial. It would have matched with the white hour marker on the opposite position of 9 o'clock. Much to the delight of many, the date complication does not feature a magnifier. I accept. Magnifiers make reading the date so much easier. But even with my deteriorating eyes, I prefer my watches without a magnifier, as it gives the watch a much more sleek profile. At the 12 o'clock position on the dial, you have the applied rhodium-plated Omega logo, which seems to disappear in the shadows or shine brightly depending on how the light hits it. The dial is finished off with a red printed Seamaster logo, which complements the red tip of the second hand beautifully. This colour combination of blue with red highlights works very well and is not too dissimilar to the Rolex Yachtmaster with the blue dial. The bracelet on the Seamaster 300M is a 9-link configuration, which gives the bracelet a distinct look. Comprising of 7 brush parts to 2 polish parts, there is a nice compromise between everyday durability and a bit of flair. The brushed clasp features an engraved Omega logo and opens up reassuringly with the press of the 2 spring-loaded buttons on either side. The bracelet does feature a dive extension so that the watch can be worn over a diving suit, but lacks any system for any on-the-go micro adjustments. The Seamaster bracelet is very sturdy and works very well. However, it's a world away from Rolex's glide lock clasp. But if you're not a diver, I wouldn't worry too much about it. The screw-down case back features an intricate engraving of the Seamaster hippocampus, which is a mythological creature that has the upper body of a horse and the lower part of a fish. It's not your typical seahorse. This Seamaster is powered by the caliber 2500 movement, which features Omega's proprietary coaxial technology, based on the ETA 2892 movement, but now with 48 hours of power reserve. As it is a dive watch, the Seamaster 300M has a water resistance rating of 300 meters, just like the Rolex Submariner. But in addition to this, the Seamaster also features a manually operated helium escape valve in the form of an additional crown at the 10 o'clock position. Early saturation divers would experience a phenomenon where the crystal of their watches would pop off during decompression in a decompression chamber. The problem was caused by the tiny helium molecules which are used in breathing gases and would penetrate the watch over time. When the air pressure was then lowered to that of sea level when rising back to the surface, the helium molecules could not escape from the watch quickly enough. This would increase the pressure inside the watch, forcing the helium through the point of least resistance and popping the crystal off. To prevent this with the Seamaster, you would simply open up the helium escape valve, which would allow the helium to be released from the watch without any drama. This is a less sophisticated approach than Rolex applied to its Sea Dweller, which has an automatic helium escape valve. But then again, the Sea Dweller is a much bigger watch, and it's about double the price. We'll include a link to our Rolex Sea Dweller review in the description below, so be sure to check that out afterwards. The helium escape valve has become a defining feature of the Seamaster 300M and can often split opinion. I quite like the quirk of the valve at 10 o'clock. Mind you, who doesn't like to pretend they're James Bond every now and then, imagining you could shoot laser beams or detonate some explosives from that extra crown? There's no doubt that the Seamaster 300M offers superior value for money compared to the equivalent Rolex Submariner, and is much more easily attainable from an authorized dealer. The Omega Seamaster 300M is more understated than a Rolex Submariner and will attract less attention, especially from those unsavory types that we Londoners and many others from major cities have to be wary of nowadays. It is much less likely that you're going to have to act like 007 just to keep your watch on your wrist. The Omega Seamaster Professional is a great watch made by one of the most famous watchmakers in the world. It is versatile enough to be worn with your best tuxedo, drinking martinis, shaken, not stirred of course, or simply lounging around in a pair of jeans and a polo t-shirt. What do you think of the Omega Seamaster 300M? Would you choose one over the Rolex Submariner? Please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed watching this video and would like to see more watch content like this, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.